back to the Childhood Cancer Perspective, and thank you all for sticking with me through this entire series of not only being able to share my own story, but share so many other stories out there as well. And one of the most powerful things that I'm able to do with this podcast is share everything unfiltered and uncensored and just allow the real stories to come out, because that's what truly is missing when it comes to this community and what comes to understanding about pediatric cancer and cancer in general is the ideas behind everything that people don't see when it's not a commercial. So today my guest is going to have several accolades that I'll read off here, but hopefully I won't miss any, and if I do apologize. But my guest today is author, high school chemistry teacher, Make-A-Wish volunteer, and cancer survivor, Katie Vandrilla. So thank you, Katie, for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. And yep, that's it. You've got them all.
Okay. So I appreciate being able to speak with you and kind of get your story and everything behind not only, your cancer diagnosis, but what you've also turned it into later on in life as a survivor, because I kind of say that there's two different ways you can go when you're going through cancer. Is number one, at the end of treatment, you can Homer Simpson into the bushes and just leave it behind, which is totally fine, or you can kind of turn it all into some kind of purpose and give back to the community as well. So talk about your initial diagnosis, which I believe was acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and kind of what led to the actual diagnosis of the symptoms, things like that.
Okay. So the original diagnosis came about a month after I started getting sick. I was a very active junior in high school, and I always loved food, and I was very active. I would stay after school. I was involved in maybe 5 different clubs, like the drama club and other things like that. And it got to a point that I was so tired that I couldn't stay after school. I couldn't study, which school was a huge deal for me, but I would come home and take a nap, which I had never napped since I was like a baby. So I would sleep right after school. My parents would wake me up for dinner. I wasn't hungry, which again was a big red flag because I love food. And then I'd go to bed really early, maybe 7 o'clock, and then I'd be exhausted the next day and repeat the cycle. And I stayed after school not only for activities, but I would get help when I didn't understand stuff. If I had a test or anything, school is a very important part. Not only did I want to be a teacher, but I knew that education was very important. So not putting my all and not being able to was really the big things, being very tired and also not eating. And then we went to the doctor, and there's actually a funny story. I finally was able to eat something, and my mom's like, all right, whatever you want. She gave it to me, and then on the news, it was like, how your dinner might kill you, and more at 10. And of course, it was what she fed me. So we thought like I was getting sick because of that, but it wasn't. And then my doctor immediately realized, she felt around, and she realized my spleen and everything was enlarged. So she sent us to get a blood test. And the next morning I was pulled from school. My whole family sat around the pediatrician's office, and we heard those words no one wants to hear. And that is what started everything.
And I think what a lot of people maybe misunderstand is that, I would say almost majority of symptoms that lead to a diagnosis of pediatric cancer can be assigned to so many other things, right? You're tired, or you're not eating well, or you bruise easily, or something like that, and you don't immediately think this is what it could be. And what my wife likes to say, the doctors are looking for horses and not zebras in that sense, because you're not necessarily upset with how long a diagnosis takes, but at the same time, you kind of are, but they're not looking, okay, well, you came in tired and you're not eating, she must have cancer. That must be what we're looking for. It could be, but let's look at all these other options first. And so a lot of these symptoms and a lot of these diagnoses take weeks, if not months and months to diagnose, because they're ruling out every other thing before we get to that big diagnosis. But when you look back at it, a lot of kids and a lot of situations, how much time with treatment do you lose during that time of trying to figure it out?
Yeah, as my treatment started, I realized how lucky I was. It was mostly our fault that it took so long, because my family was going through I'm tired, I'm not eating, it can't be that big a deal. So when we finally went to the doctor, my doctor caught it immediately, and I realized how grateful I was when I met other kids and other families at the hospital where they were months in and they still hadn't had a proper diagnosis. So for me, being diagnosed 12 hours after going to the doctor was mind-blowing that my doctor caught it so fast, and I really appreciate that, because like I said, there's so many that, they don't get a diagnosis or it takes forever. And like you said, treatment, the sooner you start, the least you can be on that road to getting some sort of normalcy.
Right. Yeah, I think that diagnosis, that anything outside of, a couple of weeks, if not months, is really kind of anomalies. And it's not, again, I don't think it's doctors that don't want to find the answer. I think it's just trying to narrow things down and not immediately jump to what we as parents do. Like we notice the symptoms and now we've got Google, right? And we go in there, put all the symptoms in, and the worst things in the world pop up first. And we're trying to stay away from those. But I think it's amazing that's a good story. Like I wish more and more stories were like that. They catch it really soon and really early. And I think we're getting there. I think that the tools in the toolbox are becoming more and more. I think that we're sharing ideas more, and I think we'll see more of these I hope we don't see more diagnoses, but they'll come faster and because the sooner you get that treatment started, the better chances you have of beating it and having a good, kind of quality of life moving forward.
Absolutely.
And you had treatment, you had chemotherapy, correct? And so talk to us a little bit about that, you said 2.5 years of chemo?
So I was diagnosed in November, and it took 2.5 years to get through. There was different regimens that we would go through, and each one had slightly different things. The first one was trying to get the leukemia cells, which are called blasts, in your bone marrow down to an undetectable level. So they kind of just had a cocktail of chemo that they pumped through me. And then the different, regimens, I guess. Each one had different names and different parts to it. So some had inpatient chemotherapy, others were outpatient, others were just medicines that I took at home. The goal was maintenance, which was about maybe the last 10 to 12 months, that was where the chemo really lessened and I started to grow my hair back. And that was to kind of just get me to the finish line and best chance of not relapsing. But yeah, each one had its own little twists and turns and different chemos and different procedures, and yeah, all of them kind of blend together. I actually just didn't process anything until I started writing my memoir, because you don't have time. Like I was diagnosed 12 hours after I went to the doctor, and we immediately had to drop everything, and we became the cancer family, and we had to go to the hospital every couple days. We ended up there for weeks at a time. It's just, you don't get to sit and go, ooh, how do I feel about this? Let me process everything. So you just do what they say and you ask questions and you keep going. And then I started processing once I was totally out of treatment to go, what just happened to my family?
Yeah, and it's something else. Obviously you were diagnosed at what, 16, right?
Yes. Yep.
So there's those age groups make a big difference in not in intellectual level of understanding when it comes to this stuff, because our daughter at 6, 7, 8 years old understood what was happening. It's just they can't explain it as well as once we get a little bit older. But the age groups make a big difference. You're getting into a time when, in high school and things like, everybody's judging, right? No matter what, everybody's judging what's going on. You're trying to figure out how to explain it all or just get through it. Did anything with that age and going through it at that age, do you think it was different for children? I mean, obviously different for younger kids because of the age you were at. Did you have any troubles in school or anything like that? Or was there special, what do you want to call it, kind of exceptions made for that kind of thing for when you were there?
Oh, absolutely. So because of the protocol for leukemia, I was not able to go back to school the rest of my junior year. So I was homebound tutored to get me through, to keep me on track to start senior year. And I did go back into the building for senior year. But along the way, my chemo brain, so being able to remember, focus, was not good. And I actually still have some long-term effects that maybe I just have a bad memory, but I definitely, even years later, have trouble remembering short-term things, making them into long-term memory. And they had warned us that could be a side effect, more so if I was younger and my brain was still, you're still developing at 16, but if I was even younger, it would have been a bigger risk for learning disabilities or the way the brain functions. But yes, I saw the way that I learn and the way that I process information to change, and mostly slower. I needed more supports in terms of notes, going back to things. But yeah, homebound tutoring was how I got through junior year. And then when I went back into the building senior year, I had a lot less classes. I was on track before I got diagnosed to take the highest level classes, like AP classes, so I could start college with some credits under my belt. But I was only able to take one AP class, which was chemistry, and then I only took about 3 other classes, which was a very, very light load for a student, and a student like me who really wanted to get as much out of my education as possible. So I had to scale back my education because I had to focus on my health and what I could mentally process and take on with everything else going on.
Sure. Were you able to graduate on time?
Yes. So yeah,
Okay.
when I first got diagnosed, I don't know what the conversation was. I wasn't a part of it, but it seemed like, oh, just repeat the year and you can start junior year next year, which is an absolutely fine thing for most students, but I am stubborn, and I was a junior who I had friends and I wanted to graduate and I had a plan for my life, even though obviously that plan changed day by day. So I was adamant that no, I want to graduate on time. But if I was any other person, it could have been a very realistic thing to no, let's focus this year and come back next year and start over. But that was not for me.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. Listen, that's okay. And now you mentioned that you have now kind of memory issues or things like that, remembering things. Is there any other long-lasting side effects that you've had years later now that you've noticed that you can directly kind of correlate with the treatment?
Absolutely. And a lot of them sound stupid when I say them. I'm kind of a hypocrite where I say no cancer journey is easy, but then I look at my own journey, I'm like, I had it so easy. But anyone else, if they had the same journey as me, I'd be like, no, you had it so hard. So I am fortunate at this point that the long-term effects I have are small. They're livable. They're things like I have weak hands, so I can't open water bottles by myself, just dumb stuff like that. I can't really run, which I couldn't run to begin with, so that's not a big change for me. I wasn't a marathon runner before I was diagnosed, but some of the medicine really affected that part of my legs where I can't run, which, whatever. I have some nerve damage, but again, it started way worse than it is now, so it's one of those silver linings of it's gotten so much better that I will take it. There's some other little things that have popped up that are kind of embarrassing, so I'm not going to say, but they're all very minor considering what they could have been, and hopefully they will stay minor because a lot of long-term effects are also late effects. So my heart is being monitored because of the doxorubicin and other medicines that they know affect the heart muscle. So that could be something that 10 years down the road something happens, or I don't know if I can have children. We haven't tried yet, but that's another possible effect that might pop up where who knows what tomorrow holds.
Right. No, I think that was for our daughter. I know there was the handful of things that they said will probably happen during this. You'll probably lose your hearing. You'll obviously lose your hair. You'll probably never have kids, and they're almost like kind of the same list of what's going to happen. And for anybody that doesn't know, doxorubicin is also called the Red Devil, and you can look it up. And it's not something it's not something that's nice. I mean, it has been known to cause heart problems and things like that, and it's one of those. I don't know. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't with these types of. You know exactly what's going to happen if you don't treat this disease. But at the same time, you're taking on all the risk with these chemotherapies and with these treatments, with the hopes of things getting better. And listen, when you make it into later on in life and you're able to have a life and be successful and things like that, that's a victory. Every day is a victory. Every day is moving forward. And as you said, the side effects to you are small and they're there, but they're not affecting your life in a way where you can't kind of get up every day and do the things you want to do. And damn the water bottles, okay?
That's what my husband's for. Here, open this.
Listen, you know what? We have a purpose.
Yeah.
All right? We have a purpose, y'all. So you also said that you were or you didn't say, I mean, I was reading the bio and stuff like that, but you were a Make-A-Wish recipient, and then you turned around and decided to give back to Make-A-Wish in a way that, again, that is that whole turning pain into purpose and doing something amazing. So first, I want to know what the wish was, and if it was going to Hawaii, darn it. And because everybody wants to do that. And then I want to know what you do as a volunteer with Make-A-Wish.
Okay. Stop me if I get too off track, but my Make-A-Wish was to meet Johnny Depp because he has been my favorite actor for as long as I can remember. And when the social worker came in and said that I qualified for a Make-A-Wish, my brain was like, I'm not a sick kid, as I have tubes attached to me in the hospital. And the next thought out of my brain was, wait, can I meet Johnny Depp? So it took a while because he's super busy, and the first time that it was possible for me to meet him, my parents had a very short turnaround because he's busy, and they actually had to say no because I was really sick in the hospital. And when they told me that came up and that they had to say no, I was so heartbroken, but I understood it because I was so sick at that time. But I was also getting old because it's for kids, so you have to be diagnosed before your 18th birthday, and it has to happen before your 21st birthday. So I ended up waiting for Johnny because he was all that I wanted to do, even if it was 5 minutes at the end of my driveway. That's what I want. And the call came, and we flew off to London 24 hours later, and we met him on the set of Dark Shadows. I got to meet my favorite director, Tim Burton, and it was the best day of my life, which I probably shouldn't say now that I'm married. That should have been the best day of my life. But immediately I was like, you know what? This is an amazing organization. Just looking forward to this possibility of meeting Johnny one day got me through so many trials. There's one part in particular that I'm not going to get into, but he got me through a lot of things. So to be able to stand in front of him and tell him what he meant to me, I know a lot of people think that's crazy, but he got me through things. So I knew that I needed to pay it back and pay it forward to other kids in similar situations. So I looked at how to become a volunteer, and I started wish granting 3 years later, which is where I meet with the families, meet with the kid, figure out what their one true wish is, whether it be to have something, go somewhere, meet someone, be something, give back in some way. And it's really incredible to see what these kids want and why they want it. And then when that dream comes true, it's always better than they expect. And it just to play a part in the smallest part of these kids' stories and these family stories is so rewarding, and I absolutely love it. And I've granted over 40 wishes so far in some part or some aspect, whether it's the whole process or just a piece of it, and it's really rewarding. So I try to give back whenever I can through that, through my books that I wrote. I absolutely love Make-A-Wish. Yeah.
And I love that. And as from a Make-A-Wish family, I want to say thank you for what you've done, what you decide to do to give back to these other families, what it means. You obviously know what it means to you, but what it means to to us is so much. And I think for us, I know that Make-A-Wish, when they come in and offer that, when you're first in the hospital, my wife and I freaked out because it's got that almost negative connotation of it's terminal kids only are getting these wishes, right? And they come in and you're like, wait a minute now, we just got the diagnosis 5 minutes ago, and now we're getting a Make-A-Wish. And it took a while. It took a while because COVID and everything else. But it was incredible because it was all about our daughter. It was all about her and all she wanted, and it was amazing. And what it can do to kind of change your attitude and change your perspective on things, or just give you a new perspective and hope, really is incredible. Now, you've granted a lot, and they're all important. They're all amazing. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about maybe one of the most memorable ones that you can think of that a child asked for that you were able to be a part of?
Okay, I can't pick just one, so I'll give little tidbits. My first will always be special. The kid wanted to go to Italy to meet her extended family, so that just was special. I had one kid who wanted to go to New Zealand to see the Lord of the Rings sets, so that was awesome. I had one kid that I actually glommed my way onto the wish the second one of my friends who's a wish granter was like, help, I have a kid who's meeting their favorite actor in London and I don't know what to do. I'm like, hold on, I got this. So one kid met Emma Watson in London, and that was just awesome because it was like a full circle moment of meeting their favorite actor in London. Yeah, they're just all so awesome. There's one that went to Disney that the next year my family and I went to Disney, and the parents wanted to give back to Give Kids the World, which is where the kids stay on their wish. And so we actually volunteered together. So it was really nice to reconnect with that family and give back to Give Kids the World. That was really awesome. And I have a wish kid now who she's already on the process, and she just became a wish granter. Her wish hasn't even been granted yet, and she's already a wish granter. So I don't know, they're all special, but that's kind of a little sampling.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing. I was on a side note, I was able to interview Make-A-Wish Wisconsin last year, and I, just what they're able to do and what they're able to set up. When it comes to meeting celebrities, seems to be a big one. Obviously, like I said before, Hawaii is a big one, trips and things like that. But to me, and from what I've heard, it seems like the celebrities and people that want to be met, they're almost question, why would you want to meet me? Of anything you can, of anything you can do in the whole world, mm-hmm. and you want to meet me, why?
Yeah, Johnny literally said that. He's like, why are you guys here? Because there was a couple of us that met him at the same time, because that was when he was like really popular. And he's like, why?
Listen, Hollywood is love and hate, you know what I mean? But I think a lot of these, people are genuine, and I think they're out there doing a job, and whether they're bringing entertainment into your home through movies or TV or things like that, they're just doing what they love to do. And the fact that it brings you enough joy to want to meet them, what's the biggest wish granter is John Cena, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what he does. He just gives back to these kids and they want to meet him. And I think he's humble enough to be like, why? Why do you want to meet me? What have I done? I go, I jump around and beat people up for a living, as whatever. But you want to meet me. And I think it's humbling. And I think it's really awesome that haven't really heard of any bad stories of celebrities not wanting to get involved and meet people that just want to take that opportunity. Listen, if you have one, you can let it out. I know it's up to you. But
I'm not going to say names, but I get if you're busy. I absolutely get that. But I hard judge a celebrity when they say no.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, okay. Oh, yeah, again, I'm not going to call some out, but obviously sure. I've had some where it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
But on a different note, I had a wish kid that was John Cena's fifth wish, and I don't even remember his number now because that was like a decade ago. He's incredible.
That's crazy, but that just proves to you right there that no matter how busy you are, right, you can always make time for somebody that's all they want in life is just to meet you. And even you said yours is only a couple minutes, right? You're not there for hours and hours or days and days. Like you're there to meet them, say hi, give them a hug, tell them what they mean to you, and that's a grant. That's a wish grant, right? That's there. And so It is a shame. And yeah, we never have to call anybody out, but it is a shame because I'm a firm believer and you're never too busy to answer the phone. You're never too busy to take 5 minutes to do this and that. So it's a shame, but I'm glad that a majority of people will make the time and make the effort. So that is amazing. So again, thank you for doing that. And, it just keep doing what you're doing and granting those wishes and being a part of it because, that personal lived experience means so much when you can give back to an organization that way. Now, you also mentioned, and again, reading and things like that you have written some books. You have another one that's coming out next month. But tell us about the books that you've written. And did you always want to be an author, or did this come from this journey?
Both. I always liked to write. It's always been fun, but going forward and actually putting in the effort to do something about that was because of my journey. When I was in the hospital, I realized that every time cancer was in some sort of book or movie, it tended to be sensationalized and like either, oh, poor this person, and then they die. And it's like, okay, I know that's a reality, but it's still a person. They still have life. They still have a family. I didn't like the way it was being represented, so I wanted a normal children's book that anyone could read that represented leukemia in a normal way. So a kid who had it could represent themselves and be like, oh, that's me. Or someone that isn't touched by it could read the story, it be normal, and still maybe learn something along the way. So that's where Thumper's hospital adventure came from. Sorry, I have like an itch on my nose. I don't want to keep scratching. So that's where that came from. Thumper is my stuffed rabbit, and he was always with me in the hospital. So I wrote about what he would do if like we got separated and what would happen with that. And when I went to publish it, I realized that I didn't need any money from it. I wanted this to go to Make-A-Wish, and Make-A-Wish America, we're very fortunate here. Basically, if you qualify for a wish, you might have to wait, but you're almost guaranteed to get the wish versus internationals outside of America. And I don't know the statistic currently. I know it constantly changes, but last I read, it's something like for every wish granted, there's 2 other kids that don't have the funds to grant the wishes. So the proceeds are split between Make-A-Wish America and Make-A-Wish International so that kids everywhere around the world facing critical illnesses can get their wish. And that's where that book came from. And then there was a sequel that had its own story to it, but that's where the first book came from.
I love that. And it is true that when you're kind of looking through and you're looking at a lot of, like I say all the time that there's no books on how to raise kids, but there's a million books on how to raise kids, but they're written by people that don't have kids, honestly. And when it comes to books like this, there are a lot that it's very direct, and it doesn't make it easy or fun for a kid to read or to understand what's going on without almost being scared or anything like that. So I love that you took the personal experience, you took what you kind of learned throughout it and turned it into something that can be not sensationalized, and it can just be read as a book. My wife wrote a children's book as well, kind of in the same sense, in the same manner, and we did something unique with it and decided we weren't going to put the word cancer in it at all and use it as kind of all-encompassing to being in the hospital and just not being scared. It doesn't have to be scary, it can be an adventure. And It was fun. It was a lot of fun to do that and kind of give back. And the same thing, whatever money we've raised from that has just gone into into our nonprofit. Like we're not sitting on piles of cash here. We're not Ann Rule making millions of dollars on books. It's just a fun thing to do, but in a way you've learned and you can see how kids react to this stuff. And so I think that's really awesome. Now you have another one that is coming out right on May 20th called C is for Childhood Cancer, and that's more of a memoir about what you've been through. So tell us about that.
So that was me years afterwards going, you know what, maybe I should process what I went through. So I started just kind of jotting stuff down for myself to process what I went through. And then I realized that, you know what, if one person could benefit from the little stupid anecdotes that I have to say or my inappropriate humor at times, if one teenager out there, a young adult who's going through anything similar to me could benefit from this, then I want to get it out to that person because I didn't have access to stuff like that. Like you said, there's a lot of books out there in terms of this specifically, memoirs. There's obviously the popular ones like When Breath Becomes Air and things like that, but it wasn't childhood cancer or directly from someone that's been through something similar to what I went through. So I wanted to put my story out there to keep the conversation going, to build the community of survivors and their families and their caregivers, and also to help them be better advocates for themselves. Like maybe there's someone out there who's ignoring certain things, but then when they read about how I didn't and I was stubborn and I asked questions, maybe that'll encourage them to speak up. And again, if it can help one person, then that's why I wrote it.
I love that because it's I mentioned it before, but lived experience is so important when giving back either to as an organization when you're volunteering, when you're writing these books because you were in it. It's not about research anymore. It's not about going to the library and all. It's about you living it and putting that into words that people can understand. Because I can also relate and say that, in 2020 when our daughter was diagnosed, we were 100% on an island. Had nobody, no understanding, no connections, nothing, no support, none of that. Like you're trying to figure it all out and there's no books. At that point, there's nothing guiding you in this process and what to do. And these types of resources would have been so incredible then because we would have at least had an idea of what we were in for or what to expect or at just a minimum, what questions to ask and things like that. And so it's so important to give back and do that kind of thing. And so I love that. Now, what will happen with the proceeds from this book?
So at least 10%, I'm committing to 10% is going to childhood cancer research. And the reason it's not 100% is because with my two Thumper books, 100% I'm donating to Make-A-Wish, but that's really expensive for me because I end up buying books and donating them to Make-A-Wish kids or the hospital. And I just can't afford to do that again with a third book. So I'm hoping that at least the rest of it, I'm still planning on donating books, and I don't plan on keeping any of the money, but 10% will definitely be going to childhood cancer research. I'm not committing to one because there's so many good foundations out there, but there's two top ones that are going to get the 10% for the beginning at least.
Okay. I was going to ask you who the benefactor was, but you don't have to say it yet. But yeah, there's a lot of options out there when it comes to any type of research and depending on the type of research you're looking for. So what I will say is anybody that looks to donate to that, do your research into where the money is actually going. And that's because, any of them are bad, none of that kind of stuff, but you just want to know that it's going directly to where you want it, whether it's specific type of research, specific types of cancer, earmarked for pediatrics, which a lot of times is difficult to find. Just do your research, and I'm sure you'll pick a great one. I'm sure you've got it that are ready to go.
Whole chapter about it in the book.
I love it. So you said that you would always like to write, and then this kind of pushed you into doing it to kind of giving back a little bit. But now I'm going to ask because I know this is what you do now. Did you always want to be a teacher, a high school chemistry teacher?
So I always wanted to be a teacher. My mother was a teacher my entire life, so I always wanted to do that, but I struggled with what do I want to teach. I had this crazy notion that teachers were experts in whatever they taught, which they are, but I also thought that they knew everything because I was that kid that would ask the most random question or find the one exception to what we were learning about, and the teacher would always have an answer for me. So I didn't know what I would be good enough to actually major in college and then go back and teach until I had chemistry, and I had a conversation with my chemistry teacher, and she's like, "We don't know everything." And I was like, "Huh, I guess I should have known that by now." But nope, that was new information for me, and I really enjoyed chemistry, and that's why I decided to become a chemistry teacher.
I love it because I honestly, I thought the same thing. If you're a science teacher, you must know everything about it. If you're an English teacher, you must know everything about it. Who would have known that you're still learning every day, and you're just as much learning as the kids are along the way, but maybe not 100% expert, and that's okay, I guess, because listen, I had a professor once tell me that experts, if you call yourself an expert, it means you think you have nothing else to learn. So that's kind of stuck with me for a long time. So I will never call myself an expert in anything because I feel like I'm always learning, always trying to figure things out. Now, one thing that I read on your bio, and you mentioned as well, and I think is 100%, but why do you think that humor is so important going through a journey like this, or just maybe your own dark humor, things like that? Why do you think it's so important that we almost, I would say that you have to laugh at yourself or laugh at your situation?
I mean, that's my philosophy, is that you have to laugh at it. And it's just how I process. It's how I communicate. I'm super sarcastic. If you know me, I make puns constantly. I'm constantly thinking of something that's ironic or whatever. So it's just how I connect with my world. And it helps me to process and get through everything, is to, you know what, even if this is the end of the world, we have to laugh about it. So
yeah, I agree. I don't know how we would have gotten through it without just laughing. And you either laugh or you cry. It's one of the, yeah. And I mean, at the same time, it's one of those things we have to, and it's I would guess I would call it an unfortunate side effect of all of it, that you're looking at the situation from different angles that people don't see. And like I said in the very beginning, this journey is absolutely not a commercial. Everything that you see on TV is about 0.5% of what kids go through and families go through. And I wish the commercial was real life. I really do. It's scary, right? It's not fun. It's hospital beds and it's beeping machines and it's all of these things that give us PTSD later. But that's reality. And I wish more and more people would talk about it like that, because I think that's what you need, so that we have that vision that we need, so that more and more children can make it into later on in life, getting into the dreams that they wanted to proceed or and to have and to become what they wanted to become and have a future. And that's so important. But I'm so glad that I was able to kind of hear your story and what you've been able to do with all of it, not letting it define you, like never letting this define you, but also understanding and kind of owning what you went through and turning it into something good. Now, is there anything that I missed? And I do this all the time. I miss things. Is there anything that I missed that you would like to share, both about what you've got going on now or what you're planning in the future, anything like that?
I guess I do have to give a shout out to Johnny Depp, who he wrote a foreword for my second book, which was Thumper's London Adventure. So I guess we talked about the other two books. I just wanted to say that he was amazing and wrote a foreword for that book, and which also goes to Make-A-Wish.
I love that. I love that. And you know what, Johnny, if you're listening, just share this for me. But no, I think it's incredible. I said it before. People that take time out of their day, that they're busy, I get that, but take time out of their day and are humble about the fact of why in the world would you want to meet me? Would you want this to be your one opportunity to do something when you can have the world, essentially? Make-A-Wish offers you the world. They offer you, what do you want? They don't say, what do you want? Except they say, what do you want now? Now, unless it's COVID times, then they say, what do you want except travel? But they say, what do you want? And they give you that option, and it can be anything. And when you want to meet one person, when you want to take that opportunity, I'm incredibly amazed at the generosity, because again, the TV doesn't portray people's real personalities. I mean, a lot of times we get the bad side of people, and it's, when you see it behind the scenes, what they're doing, this kind of work. And a lot of times they don't talk about this because it's important, but why bring light to themselves when it should be you that's getting the spotlight? And I love that.
Am I allowed to ask you questions?
Sure.
What was JC's Make-A-Wish?
So she was absolutely obsessed with baby dolls, and my wife would make her like homemade, these hand painted baby dolls and things like that, and she loved them. So all she wanted was a shopping spree with nothing but baby dolls and cribs. So her whole room is exactly the way it was, and it has new cribs and all these beautiful babies, and like a way where she can. It's like this thing is built on the wall where she can like feed them, like high chairs and stuff like that. So that's what she wanted. We got like a brand new stroller that she could push the babies around, like a nice like adults, this big stroller that she could push around. And that's all she wanted. I mean, originally we said she wanted to go to Hawaii, right? That's what she wanted. It was 2020. That was not happening. And they said, "What else do you want?" She goes, "I want a shopping spree." So that's what it was. And they showed up at the house and they just, all this stuff coming in, and she was just, I've got pictures of her just overjoyed about all this stuff coming just for her. And it was just bags and bags, and she loved it. And that happened to be literally like a day before she started her chemo. So it was a good way to send her off, and definitely something that we're thankful for to this day, because we can still see all of these things that brought her so much joy.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was, and I make a joke, and it's not supposed to be derogatory, but the woman that handled our Make-A-Wish, her name was, and I always heard it on the phone as a different word, but her name was Sherry Miracle, and I always heard a Share a Miracle was her name. And whenever she called and my wife would say, "Yeah, it was Sherry Miracle," I said, "Share a Miracle? That's not real. That's not real at all." But that was her name. So, I mean, I think we're destined for things in life. Like we get here and we're set off for a certain type of path. And that was her path. And she absolutely was a part of an incredible miracle. So we are a Make-A-Wish family, and I cannot thank them enough for what they did for us. And they pushed very, very hard to have it done prior to her going to chemo, because they knew how she would feel. And they made it happen. They made a miracle happen for us. So our family is forever grateful to Make-A-Wish. That's our short story. I mean, hours and hours we can share the whole thing, but that was our short story. But I think we covered everything. If I didn't, please let me know. But otherwise, it was an incredible honor to have you here, and I can't wait to be able to look into these books. I love to get the books and be able to read them. You know, we have our own, like I said, and we were able to put those out in everything that we do and hand them out. It's the same thing. We buy them and just donate them, and that's okay. But it does become expensive. So please, I'm going to put all of your links, your website, all that kind of stuff in the description. So if anybody wants to purchase these books and, help bring those to people that need them and help bring the proceeds to a lot of other people that need it too, and kind of help in both ways, you'll be able to do that. But I appreciate having you here today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
and so everybody else, we will see you all next week. But like I said, all these links will be in the bio. You'll be able to, it is Thumper's Hospital Adventure, and then C is for Childhood Cancer. That comes out on May 20th, and you'll be able to purchase that. And the benefactor has not been released yet, but however, I promise they will go to good causes and bring about the research that we so desperately cry for every day in this community. So thank you for giving back so much when you were going through all of this. It's amazing to see the minds of children at all ages wanting to not think about themselves and think about everybody else. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you all next week. And Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you.